Bears came to us. We've been working with them, and they know what it's like for a state that's open for business.
America, Indiana's governor just revealed that the Chicago Bears, one of the most historic franchises in NFL history, approached them about moving. The Bears tried to work with Illinois for 3 years and got the cold shoulder.
Kevin Warren did call me yesterday. We didn't get a chance to connect. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago.
While JB Big Bot Pritzker was spending $3 billion on illegal immigrants and Brandon Johnson was missing phone calls from the Bears president, Indiana was quietly closing the deal. And this isn't about football. This is about what happens when you elect politicians who think government is social work instead of actually business.
In 2023, 218 businesses left Illinois. Citadel has left Illinois. Caterpillar has left Illinois. Boeing has left Illinois. Tyson Foods has left Illinois. Nearly 1 million people have left Illinois.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me show you how Illinois just proved that when you vote community organizers in instead of actual business leaders, you don't just lose companies. You lose your identity. Let me start with the timeline that nobody wants to talk about because it exposes exactly what happened.
They started this conversation 3 years ago. 2.5 years, cold shoulder.
3 years ago, not 3 months, the Bears bought land in Arlington Heights, a Chicago suburb, and approached Illinois about building a new stadium. And for 2.5 of those 3 years, they got radio silence from Springfield. You guys want to know what type of message that sends? We don't need you. That's the message that it sends.
Get out of here! Can't you see we don't want you anymore?
So the Bears picked up the phone and called Indiana. Within 4 months, Indiana passed legislation enabling that particular deal.
The Bears belong in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago. I've said repeatedly that the door is always open for conversations.
Brandon Johnson says he can't understand the Bears' motivation while simultaneously claiming no politician has worked harder than him. Let me help you understand. Brandon. When the team's president won't return your calls and your state gave them the cold shoulder for 2.5 years, they're not playing hard to get. They're leaving. Everything you own in a box to the left. And the line about working harder than anyone. You've been the mayor for less than 2 years. Maybe if you spend less time defending sanctuary city policies and more time returning phone calls, we wouldn't have this conversation in the first place. Now, let me show you what JB Big Bop Pritzker was actually doing during those 2.5 years when the Bears were being ignored.
Pritzker has raised taxes and fees more than 50 times. He spent $3 billion on illegal immigrants, migrants.
50 tax and fee increases, $3 billion on illegal immigrants, and absolutely zero time to negotiate with an NFL franchise that wanted to stay in Illinois. You want to know what leadership priorities looks like? Pritzker had the time to fight Trump over border enforcement. He had the time to defend sanctuary city policies, but he didn't have time to keep the Chicago Bears.
His priorities are all about defending sanctuary for illegal immigrants, tens of thousands of whom he knows are violent criminals, and he's turned his back on a working-class fan base of the Chicago Bears because we love our Chicago Bears and we don't want to see them leave.
When the former mayor, Rod Blagojevich, a Democrat, calls your governance malpractice, you've crossed a special line of incompetence, Mr. J.B. Pritzker. He's saying Pritzker spent $3 billion on people who broke immigration law while ignoring a franchise that employs thousands and thousands of Americans and generates hundreds and hundreds of $1 millions in economic activity. That's not just bad priorities. That's blindness masquerading as compassion. And now here's the question that every voter wants to ask themselves. Would you hire J.B. Pritzker or Brandon Johnson to run your company? Think about the type of skills that are required to run a Fortune 500 company. We're talking about negotiation, fiscal management, competent awareness, team management, incentive structure, results-based decision-making. Now apply all of that to Illinois leadership.
Well, busting moves and trying to sing baskets. That's how a lot of people remember Brandon Johnson.
He spent about 5 years as an educator before moving on to a union job.
Brandon Johnson's entire career before politics was teaching and union organizing. He never negotiated a deal in his life. He's never had to compete for customers. He's never had to use business strategy or KPIs, key performance indicators. He's never built anything that required attracting investment or retaining talent. His skill set is protesting and demanding, not creating value. And now he's trying to keep a billion-dollar organization in his city, and he doesn't even understand how to have the conversation in the first place. He missed the call and then says he can't get into his psyche of why the team would want to leave. That is not business acumen. That is fundamental incompetence. Pritzker inherited the Hyatt fortune, which one of the Pritzkers conveniently left because of the E-list, but that's an entirely different story. He didn't build it. He's never had to make payroll, compete for market share, or convince investors to believe in his particular vision. He's played with family money his entire life, and now he's playing with yours. I would not hire either of them to clean the bathrooms at a Costco, but Illinois voters put them in charge of the 7th largest economy in America, and now they're shocked that businesses are leaving.
Our GDP growth is twice that of Illinois, and the number of people that have been moving in, I think I heard a stat where Fort Wayne, all the way over in the northeastern part of the state, its biggest population influx from the Chicago area.
GDP growth twice Illinois. That's not marketing. That's measurable economic performance. Indiana is creating wealth at double the rate of Illinois under this leadership. And Fort Wayne, a city in northeastern Indiana, is experiencing its largest population growth from Chicago residents fleeing Illinois. People are voting with their feet. Businesses are voting with their headquarters. And now sports teams are voting with their stadiums.
Economic development, since I've been there, we've spent 1/3 the amount on incentivized jobs and raised wages by over 10%, 36 to 41 bucks.
Spend 1/3 what other states spend on incentives, raised wages 14%. That's called return on investment, ROI. That's what happens when you elect somebody with the CEO mentality who understands that government should enable businesses, not regulate them to death. Meanwhile, Illinois spent $3 billion on illegal immigrants and lost an NFL team. The contrast here couldn't be clearer. Now, let me quickly show you the pattern here, because this isn't just about one sports franchise making a business decision. This is systematic failure.
Citadel has left Illinois. Caterpillar has left Illinois. Boeing has left Illinois. Mayor Daley and I were instrumental in bringing Boeing to Chicago. Tyson Foods has left Illinois.
218 businesses in 2023 alone, nearly 1 million residents. And now the Chicago Bears. Each one individually is a red flag. Together, they're a pattern that screams, get out while you can. And you're probably asking yourself, Tyson, where did they go? Texas, Florida, Virginia, predominantly red states with lower taxes, less regulation, and governors who answer the phone when businesses call. Only 5 states in America are bleeding population worse than Illinois, and 4 of them, New York, California, New Jersey, Connecticut, all run by Democrats implementing the exact same policies. High taxes, heavy regulation, sanctuary city policies, and prioritizing illegal immigrants over citizens. That's not a coincidence, my friends. This is cause and effect. When you make your state hostile to businesses and expensive for taxpayers, people and companies leave every single time. Now, let me bring this home with the lesson that every American voter needs to learn from Illinois' failures.
Braun was born and raised in Jasper, Indiana, which he still calls home. He and his wife met there back when they were in grade school, and they raised their 4 children there. That's also where he grew a small truck body manufacturer, once partly owned by his father, into a national auto parts supplier known as Meyer Distributing.
When you vote for your governor, you're hiring a CEO for a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, a Fortune 500 company that competes against 49 other business owners, CEO minds, businesses, residents, and tax revenue. Mike Braun built a business empire in the private sector. He understands competition, negotiation, and efficiency. JB Pritzker inherited a fortune and spent his entire political career pushing progressive ideology and eating McDonald's. One of them is attracting the Chicago Bears, raising wages 14% and doubling GDP growth. The other lost 218 businesses in 1 year while spending $3 billion on illegal immigrants.
JB Pritzker had some strong words about Indiana there in the clip that we showed. Nobody wants to go to Indiana. They don't take care of their workers and they don't provide health care.
Nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to go to Indiana. Tell that to the nearly million Illinois residents who moved there. Tell that to the Chicago Bears. Tell that to the 218 businesses that fled Illinois in 2013. Tell that to Fort Wayne, whose biggest population growth is from Chicago refugees. This, my friends, is what denial looks like with a side of extra pickles. Reality contradicts your ideology. Big Bop Pritzker can't admit that his policies failed, so he mocks the state that's succeeding. And Indiana's response? They'll just keep winning while Illinois keeps losing. America, what you're witnessing isn't just about football. The Chicago Bears, the Bears leaving Illinois is a symptom of ideological governance destroying economic competitiveness. While the former governor of Illinois, a Democrat, calls Pritzker's performance malpractice, when a city mayor can't return a phone call from an NFL team president, when a state spends $3 billion on illegal immigrants while giving an NFL franchise a cold shoulder for 2.5 years, you're not just watching incompetence. You're watching priorities. JB Pritzker choosing sanctuary cities over the Bears. Brandon Johnson choosing progressive activism over business retention. And Illinois voters choosing community organizers over business-mind CEOs to run the state. The result? 218 businesses gone, nearly 1 million residents fled, and now the most iconic franchise in Chicago sports history is moving 15 minutes across the state line. Indiana didn't steal the Bears. Illinois gave them away. And if voters don't start to understand that governors are CEOs competing for business, the exodus will continue until there's nothing left. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comments section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.